Hi, I'm Stef, dressage rider and trainer, and today, in association with Carde Martin, I'm here to talk to you about cooling down. So if I've just come out of my dressage test, or I'm at the end of my schooling and I now want to cool my horse down, obviously it's really important because they've got quite hot and they have large muscle mass, especially here and here, and it can get very hot. The muscles are very thick and the horse can overheat. So it's really important to cool them off and also to stretch the muscles so they come out better the next day, and also to disperse the lactic acid. That's a byproduct of exercise. And if you do slow trotting, stretching and a lot of walking, basically the muscles can get it out of the system and it starts to be metabolized and got rid of. It's not good if they keep the lactic acid in there, so it's quite important that we spend the time getting the horse relaxed, soft and working them in a stretched outline. You know, I only really sort of have them really long and stretching if I feel that obviously they're not going to spin around and dump me or something, because if you're on a very sharp horse, obviously it's quite important to keep control, which is the most important thing out of everything. But once the horses are trained, it's quite easy to be able to let go of the reins and they understand that they can have a stretch. So I might come out of my test and I think, oh gosh, I'm really tired. He's done a good test, well done. And then I think, okay, actually now I must cool him down. Or I'm at the end of my lesson, I think, crikey, I've just worked, you know, however many half passes and, oh, I'm really, like my legs are killing me. But it's really important that we just go for a little bit longer and just do very basic, like we did at the beginning where we just warm them up, make sure they, you know, if they're really puffing, they want to walk for a bit, a few minutes, probably, and try and stretch them, try and give them a bit of rein and stretch them. Make sure that they're not lazing about, it's not so good for them, but they don't need to be going at 100 miles an hour. So same thing, they've still got to have relaxation even in the stretch, because it's still part of training. It's still part of their mental well-being and their submission, and train them to not be frightened of anything and to accept that we can ride them and everyone has a nice time. So I think, okay, right, so that lactic acid and the horse is a bit hot. I do a little bit of jogging, trotting, stretching. Make sure that the horse isn't, you know, work on the same principles I would if I was riding him at the beginning. I want him to stretch nicely. I want to stay in a nice balance, a light seat. I want the horse to be even to the rein. I don't want him to run off. I want to make sure that he's not going to put his head on the floor and trip over. I just stretch him off nicely. And I don't do a lot of trotting, probably a couple of minutes. And then we do it both ways, but nothing too difficult. So just like either large or on a circle. You know, and if they work really, really hard, I mean, Dylan's saying a little bit here, he's finished, thanks. He's a little bit tired. I just say, okay, just a couple of circles just to make sure that lactic acid can be got out of the muscles. Good boy. And then in this position, when the horse has got quite a low head, when I go back to the walk, I want to very much make sure that I don't sit heavy on the saddle. So, have a light seat in that moment of the transition. And I make sure he takes me forwards, that he's got, you know, a correct stretch. He's not twisting his neck like there. Straighten him up. That's it, so his muscles stretch evenly. And then I walk him around until he's basically stopped puffing. If it was a really, really hot day, although I would want to walk him, actually it's probably better to get off him sooner and cool him with water. You might have to wash him a couple of times if it's really, really hot. Luckily this doesn't happen much in England. And then walk him in hand, because you don't want them to overheat and their muscle temperature can get, you know, into like mid-40s. Once they've had a really strenuous exercise, which is really not good for the muscles. So quite often if you were at a 3-day event, you'd see someone when they finish the cross country, they don't walk and jog them off like we would in the dressage. They get off them, they take the saddle off and they start washing in them and walking them at the same time, so they get the maximum cooling effect. Really important that you scrape them. if you're washing them, because if you leave the water on, it just heats up to the same temperature as their body is, and they only dry and cool down by the water evaporating.